You consider yourselves highly evolved, yet you'll happily eat a piece of pizza off a dirty kitchen floor just because you picked it up in under 5 seconds. Your biological instincts are genuinely hilarious. Let's look at the menu. For decades, your dietary habits haven't been shaped by science, but by old wives' tales and brilliant corporate marketing. You aggressively fear the wrong chemicals, worship useless vitamins, and blindly trust culinary myths you heard in childhood. Today, we are completely tearing up the menu. We are exposing the 30 most deeply rooted, scientifically absurd food myths you still actively believe. It's time to face the uncompromising truth about what you are actually putting into your body. Myth 1. The 5-second rule. You genuinely believe that bacteria patiently stand around counting 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, before deciding to jump onto your dropped slice of pepperoni pizza. This is biologically hilarious. The 5-second rule is a psychological comfort blanket you invented to justify eating floor food. Microbes do not have waiting rooms. Scientific reality dictates that bacterial transfer is instantaneous. The moment that pizza makes physical contact with the linoleum, it is immediately colonized by whatever microscopic nightmare is living on your shoes. The only variable that actually matters is moisture. A wet slice of watermelon will absorb a thriving bacterial metropolis in a millisecond, whereas a dry cracker might pick up slightly less. You aren't beating the clock, you're just building a stronger immune system the hard way. Myth 2. Swallowed gum takes 7 years to digest. Your mother terrified you with the myth that swallowing a piece of chewing gum would anchor it to your intestines for 7 long years, slowly building up into a massive, rubbery boulder. It is a brilliant parental scare tactic, but biologically, it is pure fiction. Your gastrointestinal tract is a highly efficient muscular tube filled with incredibly corrosive stomach acid. It does not possess a secret storage locker for bubblegum. While it is entirely true that your body cannot chemically break down the synthetic rubber base of the gum, it simply doesn't care. Your digestive system treats the gum exactly like it treats a swallowed corn kernel or a tough piece of fiber. It aggressively pushes it right through the plumbing and forcefully ejects it out the other end exactly 2 days later. Myth 3. Carrots improve your eyesight in the dark. You have spent your entire life aggressively chewing on raw carrots, firmly believing they will grant you the superpower of nocturnal feline vision. Congratulations, you are still actively falling for British military propaganda from World War II. In the 1940s, the Royal Air Force secretly invented airborne radar, allowing them to shoot down enemy bombers in the dead of night. To completely hide this massive technological advantage from the enemy, the government released a massive media campaign claiming their pilots were just eating an ungodly amount of carrots. Yes, carrots contain vitamin A, which prevents you from going blind if you are severely malnourished. But eating 1,000 of them will absolutely not help you see in the dark. It will just turn your skin slightly orange. Myth 4. MSG is a toxic chemical. For decades, you have actively avoided Chinese restaurants, terrified of a phantom illness caused by monosodium glutamate, or MSG. You demand no MSG signs to feel safe. The brutal scientific truth is that the so-called Chinese restaurant syndrome was entirely fabricated by a single, poorly written letter to a medical journal in 1968, fueled by heavy paranoia. MSG is not a toxic synthetic poison. It is simply sodium combined with glutamate, an incredibly common amino acid that exists naturally in massive quantities inside tomatoes, mushrooms, and aged Parmesan cheese. You happily devour glutamate every single time you eat a slice of Italian pizza without suffering a single symptom. You are terrified of a completely harmless flavor enhancer because a marketing myth told you to be. Myth 5. Eating turkey makes you sleepy. Every Thanksgiving, after consuming 3 massive plates of food, you collapse onto the sofa and confidently blame your immediate coma on the turkey. You sound highly scientific, quoting the word tryptophan, an amino acid found in the bird that produces melatonin. Here is the uncompromising biological reality. Turkey contains the exact same amount of tryptophan as regular chicken, beef, or a block of cheddar cheese. The turkey is entirely innocent. You are violently passing out because you just aggressively shoved 3,000 calories of mashed potatoes, gravy, bread stuffing, and sweet pie down your throat in 20 minutes. Your body is desperately diverting all of its blood flow directly to your stomach just to process the massive, overwhelming carbohydrate bomb you just detonated inside yourself. Myth 6. Brown eggs are healthier than white eggs. Supermarkets have brilliantly conditioned you to walk right past the cheap white eggs and happily pay a premium luxury tax for the brown ones. You naturally assume that brown implies rustic, organic, and vastly superior in nutritional value, much like whole wheat bread. This is a magnificent agricultural illusion. The nutritional profile, the cholesterol, the protein, and the taste are absolutely, scientifically identical. The single, incredibly boring difference between a brown egg and a white egg is the specific breed of the chicken that pushed it out. White-feathered chickens with white earlobes lay white eggs. Red-feathered chickens with red earlobes lay brown eggs. You are literally paying a massive, unjustified corporate markup exclusively for the color of the calcium carbonate packaging. Myth 7. The 8 glasses of water a day rule. You walk around carrying a massive, heavy metal canteen, aggressively forcing yourself to swallow exactly 8 glasses of water every single day because a health magazine told you to. This rigid mathematical law is completely historically fabricated. It stems from a vague 1945 dietary recommendation that specifically stated you need that much fluid, but conveniently ignored the very next sentence. Most of this fluid is already contained in prepared foods. The bottled water industry aggressively weaponized this half-quote to sell you plastic bottles. You extract massive amounts of hydration from apples, soups, pasta, and yes, even from your morning cups of coffee and tea. Your biological thirst mechanism is a millions of years old evolutionary masterpiece. Just drink when you are thirsty. Myth 8. Microwaving food destroys nutrients. There is a persistent, deeply unscientific fear that the magic, glowing box in your kitchen aggressively blasts your vegetables with deadly radiation, completely annihilating all the nutritional value. The biological reality is the exact opposite. Because microwaves heat food incredibly fast and require almost zero added water, they are actually one of the absolute best methods for preserving heat-sensitive vitamins. When you traditionally boil broccoli in a pot of water on the stove, you are actively leaching the water-soluble vitamins directly out of the vegetable and into the water, which you then pour straight down the sink drain. The microwave is not a nutritional death ray. It is a highly efficient, scientifically sound tool that saves your vitamins while you are too lazy to turn on the actual oven. Myth 9. Searing meat seals in the juices. Every backyard grill master confidently throws a steak onto a blazing hot iron grate, proudly claiming that the loud, violent sizzle is actively sealing in the juices to keep the meat moist. It sounds highly professional, but physically, it is absolute nonsense. Searing does absolutely nothing to waterproof the exterior of a cow. If you actually weigh a steak before and after searing it, you will find it has lost significant moisture. The only thing you are actually achieving with that extreme heat is triggering the Maillard reaction, a complex chemical process that aggressively browns the amino acids and creates that delicious, savory crust. You are building magnificent flavor, but the juices are still violently escaping into the fire. A true chef knows that resting the meat is what actually saves the juice. Myth 10. Margarine was the healthy butter alternative. In one of the most successful, devastating public health blunders of the 20th century, corporations aggressively terrified the public into abandoning natural butter. They claimed saturated animal fat would immediately stop your heart, heavily promoting margarine as the glorious, scientifically engineered, heart-healthy savior. The reality was a biochemical disaster. To make liquid vegetable oil solid at room temperature, scientists used a violent process called partial hydrogenation, accidentally creating massive amounts of artificial trans fats. You loyally spread this synthetic paste on your morning toast for decades, completely unaware that these specific artificial trans fats were actively, aggressively destroying your cardiovascular system far faster than a block of real butter ever could. Feeling betrayed by your own refrigerator yet? You spent decades eating heart-stopping synthetic sludge just because a commercial smiled at you. Keep chewing. We are just getting started, and your grocery list is about to look like a crime scene. Myth 11. Dietary cholesterol causes heart disease. For decades, you aggressively threw away perfectly good, nutrient-dense egg yolks, terrified that eating dietary cholesterol would immediately solidify inside your arteries like wet concrete in a rusty pipe. This was a catastrophic nutritional misunderstanding heavily promoted by the media. Your biological liver is actually the master control valve, producing the vast majority of the cholesterol in your blood. When you eat more cholesterol from an egg, your liver simply adjusts its own production and makes less to maintain the precise balance. The real architectural villains actively destroying your cardiovascular plumbing are heavy artificial trans fats, massive amounts of refined sugar, and poor genetics. You threw away the healthiest part of the breakfast for absolutely no scientific reason. Myth 12. Sea salt is healthier than table salt. You happily pay a massive premium luxury tax for a beautiful glass grinder filled with large, pink Himalayan sea salt crystals, firmly believing it is a miraculous health food. You have been brilliantly manipulated by gourmet restaurant marketing. From a strict cardiovascular perspective, your biological body absolutely cannot tell the difference between expensive sea salt and the cheap, iodized table salt in a cardboard tube. By weight, they contain the exact same amount of blood pressure-raising sodium. Sea salt simply boasts larger, crunchier crystals and trace amounts of microscopic ocean minerals that are biologically insignificant unless you eat a full pound of it. You are paying a 100% markup for a slightly crunchier, prettier rock. Myth 13. Organic food uses 0 pesticides. You stroll through the expensive, softly lit organic produce aisle, aggressively paying double the price because you believe organic legally translates to grown in a magical pesticide-free fairy garden. This is an incredibly profitable agricultural illusion. Organic farmers absolutely must use heavy pesticides and fungicides to stop massive swarms of bugs from violently destroying their crops. The only legal difference is that organic pesticides must be derived from natural sources rather than synthesized in a laboratory. However, biologically speaking, natural does not automatically mean safe. Many natural pesticides are incredibly toxic and must be applied in massive, heavy quantities to actually work. You're just buying a much more expensive brand of chemical warfare. Myth 14. Fat-free means healthy. The 1990s birthed the greatest, most devastating dietary scam in human history, the fat-free craze. You aggressively filled your shopping cart with fat-free cookies, fat-free yogurt, and fat-free salad dressings, confidently believing you were biohacking your way to absolute health. You completely ignored the basic chemistry of flavor. When food scientists violently extract all the delicious natural fat from a product, it tastes exactly like heavily textured cardboard. To make it edible again, corporations aggressively pumped the empty void full of massive, concentrated amounts of highly refined sugar and artificial thickeners. You traded a perfectly natural, satiating macronutrient for a highly processed, pure sugar diabetic time bomb. Myth 15. Drinking milk builds strong bones. You aggressively forced your children to drink massive glasses of cow's milk every single day, heavily conditioned by decades of relentless, highly funded dairy industry advertising. You firmly believe calcium automatically equals an impenetrable, Wolverine-style adamantium skeleton. The objective, epidemiological reality is far darker. Massive global health studies consistently show that countries consuming the highest amounts of dairy actually suffer from some of the highest rates of bone fractures and osteoporosis. Milk is certainly a decent source of calcium, but your bones also desperately require vitamin D, magnesium, and heavy weight-bearing physical exercise to actually retain it. You are drinking a highly successful marketing campaign, not a magical bone serum. Myth 16. Coffee stunts your growth. For generations, parents have aggressively snatched coffee cups out of the hands of teenagers, loudly repeating the terrifying warning that caffeine will permanently stunt their physical vertical growth. This is a brilliant, completely fabricated urban legend. The myth actually originated in the early 20th century as a highly aggressive, deeply cynical marketing campaign by a company selling a caffeine-free coffee alternative called Postum. There is absolutely zero scientific or biological evidence linking caffeine consumption to bone density loss or stunted growth in human adolescence. The only thing a strong cup of coffee will actually do to a teenager is make them highly energetic, incredibly annoying, and completely awake for their morning math class. Myth 17. Spicy food causes stomach ulcers. You aggressively avoid the hot sauce, terrified that eating a spicy jalapeno pepper will violently burn a bleeding, highly acidic hole straight through your stomach lining. For decades, even trained medical doctors firmly believed this spicy culinary myth. The medical world was completely turned upside down when scientists finally discovered the true, invisible culprit, a highly aggressive, microscopic bacteria called Helicobacter pylori. Ulcers are caused by highly infectious bacterial colonies or the heavy, continuous abuse of anti-inflammatory painkillers, not by your love for Mexican food. Spicy food might cause some temporary, fiery discomfort if you already have an active ulcer, but it absolutely does not possess the biological capability to actually dig the hole. Myth 18. Wait an hour after eating before swimming. Every summer, mothers aggressively force their children to sit completely still on a hot beach towel for exactly 60 agonizing minutes after eating a simple sandwich. The terrifying, widely accepted theory is that digesting food steals all the blood from your arms and legs, guaranteeing a violent, paralyzing muscle cramp that will instantly drag you to a watery grave. This is a massive physiological exaggeration. Yes, your body diverts some blood to your digestive tract, but you still have a massive, highly efficient cardiovascular system perfectly capable of keeping your limbs moving. At the absolute worst, swimming immediately after a heavy meal might give you a mild, slightly annoying stomachache. Nobody has ever violently sunk to the bottom of a pool because of a hot dog. Myth 19. Detox juices cleanse your body. You happily drop an exorbitant amount of money on a 6-day, highly restrictive juice cleanse, firmly believing the brightly colored green liquid will violently flush years of accumulated chemical toxins directly out of your system. You are completely ignoring the massive, highly efficient, free filtration system already operating inside you. Your biological liver and kidneys are absolute chemical powerhouses, specifically evolved over millions of years to relentlessly neutralize and excrete toxins 24 hours a day. A highly overpriced bottle of pulverized kale and apple juice does absolutely nothing to enhance this cellular process. You aren't magically detoxifying your biological structure. You are just aggressively depriving yourself of protein and paying a massive premium to starve. Myth 20. Eating late at night makes you fat. You act like a biological Cinderella, completely terrified that the moment the clock strikes 8 in the evening, any food you consume will magically, aggressively, instantly convert into pure, solid body fat. You genuinely believe your digestive system punches a time card and goes to sleep. The uncompromising laws of thermodynamics do not own a wristwatch. Your body does not arbitrarily change how it processes energy just because it is dark outside. Weight gain is strictly driven by the brutal mathematical reality of consuming more total calories in a 24-hour period than you physically burn. People who eat late often gain weight simply because they are aggressively binge-eating highly processed junk food on the couch. not because the sun went down. You'll starve yourself on green water for a week, but you're completely terrified of a normal egg yolk. If I still had a stomach, I'd be laughing. Let's hit the final 10 and destroy your favorite excuses for drinking wine. Myth 21. Multivitamins make you healthier. You aggressively swallow a massive, chalky multivitamin pill every single morning, firmly believing you are constructing an impenetrable biological fortress against all human disease. You are completely falling for a multi-billion-dollar placebo industry. Extensive, rigorous clinical trials tracking hundreds of thousands of adults have consistently proven that routine multivitamin supplementation provides absolutely zero measurable benefit for preventing heart disease, cancer, or cognitive decline in healthy individuals. Unless you have a severely restricted diet or a clinically diagnosed deficiency, your highly efficient biological kidneys are simply filtering out the excess and aggressively flushing it down the toilet. You are literally just paying an exorbitant luxury tax to manufacture the world's most expensive, brightly colored urine. Myth 22. High fructose corn syrup is worse than sugar. You meticulously scan ingredient labels, aggressively avoiding high fructose corn syrup like it is a radioactive biological weapon, only to happily purchase products sweetened with organic cane sugar. This is a magnificent triumph of corporate rebranding. From a strict biochemical perspective, your liver absolutely cannot tell the difference between the two. Both are roughly a 50-50 split of glucose and fructose. The moment they hit your digestive tract, they are broken down and processed using the exact same metabolic pathways. The agricultural industry heavily subsidized corn, making it incredibly cheap to pump into processed foods, which is why it is everywhere. It isn't a uniquely toxic poison. It is just a highly concentrated, aggressively cheap sugar bomb, and eating massive amounts of either one will equally destroy your metabolic health. Myth 23. Gluten is bad for everyone. The modern dietary world has successfully turned a completely harmless, highly nutritious wheat protein into the ultimate biological villain. You aggressively pay double the price for dense, crumbly, gluten-free bread, genuinely believing that gluten is quietly destroying your intestines and causing your mid-afternoon fatigue. The uncompromising medical reality is that gluten is incredibly dangerous, but strictly for the 1% of the population suffering from an actual autoimmune condition called celiac disease. For the other 99% of the human species, gluten is just a perfectly normal, highly elastic protein that makes pizza dough magnificent. You are actively diagnosing yourself with a fake allergy and happily paying a massive premium to eat heavily processed tapioca starch just to feel nutritionally superior. Myth 24. A glass of red wine is good for your heart. For decades, you have happily poured yourself a heavy glass of red wine every single evening, smugly justifying the habit by calling it a scientifically proven cardiovascular health treatment. You completely bought into the infamous French paradox, heavily funded by the global alcohol lobby in the 1990s. They loudly praised a magical antioxidant called resveratrol. The brutal, unforgiving biological reality is that alcohol is a recognized neurotoxin and a Group 1 carcinogen. To get a clinically significant, heart-protecting dose of resveratrol, you would have to aggressively consume dozens of bottles of wine every single day, completely destroying your liver in the process. The World Health Organization recently declared that there is absolutely no safe level of alcohol consumption. Your healthy evening habit is just a well-marketed poison. Myth 25. Fresh vegetables are always healthier than frozen. You aggressively march past the freezer aisle, proudly paying a massive premium for fresh, brightly colored vegetables sitting in the produce section. You believe frozen food is a nutritionally bankrupt compromise for lazy people. This is a complete misunderstanding of modern agricultural logistics. Those beautiful, fresh tomatoes were aggressively picked while still green and rock hard, artificially gassed with ethylene to turn red, and spent 3 weeks degrading in the back of a dark commercial truck. Frozen vegetables, on the other hand, are violently, aggressively flash frozen directly on the farm, exactly at their peak biological ripeness, permanently locking in their maximum nutritional value. You are paying top dollar for a heavily exhausted, traveling vegetable while ignoring the scientifically preserved, nutrient-dense ice blocks. Myth 26. Alcohol cooks out completely. You confidently splash a heavy dose of expensive bourbon into your simmering stew or a rich red wine into your pasta sauce, loudly assuring everyone at the table that the intense heat aggressively burns off all the alcohol. This is a highly dangerous culinary myth. The uncompromising laws of physical chemistry dictate that alcohol binds strongly with water. Unless you are violently boiling your dinner for over 3 solid hours, a significant percentage of the intoxicating chemical remains firmly trapped inside the dish. A quick flambé leaves up to 85% of the alcohol completely intact. A dish baked for an hour still retains 25% of the hard liquor. You aren't just flavoring your food. You are actively, secretly serving a mild, legally measurable cocktail to your completely oblivious dinner guests and small children. Myth 27. Decaf coffee has 0 caffeine. You proudly order a massive, steaming cup of decaffeinated coffee late at night, perfectly confident that you have successfully bypassed your biological wiring and guaranteed a deep, peaceful sleep. You are actively falling for a massive regulatory loophole. The word decaffeinated does not legally mean caffeine-free. The highly aggressive chemical washing process used by coffee manufacturers only extracts about 97% of the active stimulant. A standard cup of decaf still quietly harbors anywhere from 2 to 15 milligrams of actual, heart-pumping caffeine. If you confidently drink 3 or 4 cups of this allegedly safe beverage after dinner, you are aggressively injecting your nervous system with the exact same chemical jolt as a can of dark cola. You are paying a premium just to subtly sabotage your own circadian rhythm. Myth 28. Cranberry juice cures UT. Is when facing the agonizing, fiery pain of a urinary tract infection, millions of people aggressively rush to the grocery store to buy massive plastic jugs of bright red cranberry juice, believing it is a miraculous, natural antibiotic. You are desperately attempting to treat a serious bacterial invasion with a highly processed sugar beverage. While cranberries do contain a specific active compound that might temporarily prevent new bacteria from physically sticking to your bladder walls, it is mathematically impossible to consume enough of it through commercial juice to actually destroy a thriving bacterial colony. By drinking that incredibly sweet juice, you are aggressively feeding the infection massive amounts of refined sugar, while entirely ignoring the clinically proven, life-saving medical antibiotics that your body desperately requires to heal. Myth 29. Vitamin C cures the common cold. At the very first sign of a minor throat tickle, you aggressively overload your biological system with massive, fizzy doses of vitamin C, firmly believing it will magically assassinate the invading cold virus. This entirely fabricated medical illusion was championed in the 1970s by a brilliant chemist named Linus Pauling, who simply stepped completely outside his actual field of expertise. Decades of rigorous, uncompromising clinical research have violently crushed his theory. Chugging massive amounts of orange juice or popping expensive effervescent tablets will absolutely not prevent you from catching a rhinovirus, nor will it cure you once you are actively sick. At the absolute best, it might aggressively shorten your miserable week of coughing by a pathetic 10 hours. You are trying to fight a biological war with a citrus placebo. Myth 30. Natural flavors are healthier than artificial. You meticulously read the back of the snack box, feeling immensely superior when you see the words "natural flavors" printed in bold green letters, convinced you are eating something lovingly extracted from a pristine forest. This is the absolute masterpiece of FDA regulatory deception. From a strict biochemical standpoint, a natural flavor and an artificial flavor are frequently absolutely, molecularly identical. The only legal difference is the incredibly complex, highly convoluted starting material. A scientist in a pristine white lab coat aggressively synthesizes the exact same chemical compound, but because they started with a piece of tree bark instead of a petroleum byproduct, the corporation is legally allowed to charge you a massive premium for the word natural. Your tongue cannot tell the difference, but your heavily drained wallet certainly can. The food industry relies entirely on your scientific illiteracy to maximize profits. They package sugar as health food, sell anxiety over harmless ingredients, and market superstitions as nutrition. Your best defense is aggressive skepticism. Read the actual ingredients, ignore the colorful buzzwords, and stop swallowing corporate mythology. Congratulations on surviving without choking on an organic, gluten-free carrot. As long as you have a wallet, someone in a corporate lab is calculating exactly how to manipulate your appetite. Stop believing the fairy tales printed on cardboard boxes. Protect your digestive tract, and remember, they charge you double just because the chicken had brown feathers. Stay paranoid, my friends,